Hi, I'm Tyson.
I'm Colin.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Adam.
And we're the Gamesmiths, and we just got done playing Fantasy Feast, and we want to talk to you a little bit about our experience with it, as this was our second time playing it after having played it with the Panjam submission, and having everybody here this is a unique situation for the Gamesmiths where everybody here has actually read the rules. So that's something that most games that we play don't happen. Ryan almost exclusively reads every rule set. So we actually have the unique perspective on this, and we wanted to talk a little bit about why we selected Fantasy Feast as the winner of Panjam, and then we wanted to talk about a little bit of how we think that it can go from here, because we don't think that any game that you design within 48 hours is ever going to be perfect, but we think that this game has a lot of great stuff that shows a lot of great potential. So one of the things for me, at least, when I started reading this rule book was I felt the rule book was very concise. We, as the Gamesmiths, often talk about having a clear objective statement and a clear opening, and this gives you a thematic pull-in, as well as it tells you what your objective with the game is, very clear, and it was clean. And so it felt very good, well laid out in the rules. And so it was just easy to see how the game was going to play. And it was easy to see that this was going to be a puzzly kind of pattern creating tile-based game, it was just very clear and concise. At least for me, that was one of the things that I saw as being a very big draw for moving this into the finalist position, at least.
One thing that really interests me in any kind of game is when it has like a nostalgic tie to anything in my past. And to me, this was Tetris, or what was the other one?
Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario. And that was fun. When anyone could take old games like Rock, Paper, Scissors, Tetris, whatever, work those elements into a game, it just connects me to the game. So right as I was reading the rules, right when I saw that Tetris element to it, and I saw that it was modified, it wasn't just Tetris, but it was modified in a really cool way, that instantly drew me into the game. I agree with Tyson. It was very easy to understand, very well laid out. I could see the vision right off the bat, and I could see why, just from reading the rules, why it would be a fun game and why I'd be interested in it. We selected the finalists based on just the rules, then we played the finalists, and then based on the gameplay, we picked the ultimate winner. And I feel like this game absolutely delivered. I was very excited after reading just the rules and thought, oh, this could be a pretty fun game. Then played it and thought it was very fun. So I was really impressed that this game took 48 hours or less to design. I think you did a great job.
Well, and it hit the theme of they tasted
Right,
quite delicious.
Quite
So
delicious, yeah.
it's fun that you're a monster, role-playing as a monster, eating a bunch of people. A lot of the games that we came across were food-related, so this was a fun take on a
Deliciousness,
deliciousness.
yeah.
And I can also see a lot of room for more monsters. Like, there's so many different ways you could tie in different point systems for, like, I don't know, a werewolf or lots of different fantasy creatures that could be fun to mix up. Yeah. Shelob from Lord of the Rings or whatever. So it's fun. I can see room for expansion to keep it fresh, and yeah, it's a lot of fun to play. It takes a lot of mind power to figure out how you're gonna win, and like sometimes you don't even know based on how many points everyone else has. So it was
Definitely a
interesting.
bit of a brain burner in that you're sitting there staring at your thing. You see what's coming up with your leader token. You're like, oh, I know that at some point that's going to drop, and I've got to figure out a way that I can get the most points out of that, and that was really exciting.
Yeah, and it gives you hope, like not knowing what the next thing is. Like, oh, maybe it'll be that piece that I need that'll give me those 4 points.
Well, damage token for Adam. He was like, oh, I want that. That would
It was less of a brain burner for me the second time around because I was just trying to get hurt as much as possible and put those damages in areas that didn't actually end up hurting me that much. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying. It definitely was the whole time you're trying to figure out this puzzle, which is very brainy, but you're playing with a theme that's very cheeky, and you can really imagine yourself as 4 goofy monsters who are just like These
Who are
guys
you
just
guys?
keep walking
Yeah.
up. And I
Yeah.
like that there's no way you have to fight them. You literally are a monster. You pick them up and
Zolp.
eat them.
Yeah.
Like I choose you, and maybe someone slashes your hand while you're
Has that
trying to eat them.
that kind of like that Rampage vibe.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Where you're just going through and they're like, there are helicopters shooting at you and there are police on the ground and tanks and stuff. And you're
Yeah.
just still like crawling up the building, just reaching in windows and eating whatever you want to eat. And
Yeah.
it had a good vibe to it. I liked the whole thing. It was really solid. Like I said, the blending of a lot of different mechanics. And, you know, you had the board here with pieces coming out and then you had your own board with pieces coming down. And it was a lot of
And
fun.
drafting in the middle
Yeah.
of the game
Drafting,
a number
and
of
it was
times.
just- there were a lot of different mechanics. None of them felt forced.
They felt
all
like
felt
they flowed
organic.
together.
Like,
Yeah.
I've definitely read rule books and we've definitely played games where like this is just like a pile of mechanics or this is too many mechanics, and you read the rule book and you're just like, whew, and then you play the game and it just like gets worse the longer you play the game. And you're just like, oh crap, I put down one piece and that affected 9,000 things, and you got to figure everything out. Just because all the mechanics are kind of forced on top of each other. But I think they do a really good job. Like you definitely pull, you know, in 3 or 4 different solid mechanics and have them work together really well.
And that lends right into what Adam, I think, was saying earlier about how when you read the rules, it makes sense, and then when you play the game, it fits what you read in the rules.
Yeah.
It delivers on what you expect it to, and I think that's a shining point of this game. There's a lot of games, even published games that I've played, that until I get into the gameplay, sometimes I don't get the feeling of what was going. So it was very surprising to me to see a game designed in 48 hours or less that could actually deliver on that and feel like, oh, I see what you're trying to do and it sounds fun. And then when I start playing it, it was. So.
It was, yeah.
And then you kind of want to play the other monsters too to
Right,
see
try
how,
it out.
how that works out too. And then, like, I was trying to figure out, okay, so what is the best leader for this one? Like, what am I actually going after? Because it could
Yeah.
be so different, and you never know.
So we all enjoyed the game very much, but we would like to give you some suggestions as you continue to develop it moving forward. Number one, and some of them are just some suggestions, some of them are pretty straightforward, and some of them are just some kind of holes that we found in the game. So kind of the big hole that we found missing from the rules is what to do when your board starts to fill up and you have a let's say 2 middle columns of your thing are full. Can you take one that's 3 wide, and does it break off on the top or break off on the sides, or how does that all work when you start to run into full columns? Is it your intention that we should have to plan around that and build our boards evenly so we don't get all these wonky columns, and it's supposed to be hard to pack that last dude in there to totally fill yourself up and fill yourself up exactly? So I would specify on that. But while you're doing that, a word of caution. I think we all felt that both times that we played it, whoever took the damage token ended the game because they would always take more damage. So, just their turn, they would generally acquire more squares than most people because they take 3 squares plus 2 damage.
Well, and this is
something
actually
like
the
that.
third time I've played, and I won the second time I played with the damage token, and
You were the one
I
that
was the one
ended
that ended the
too.
game.
So 2 out of the 3 times we've played it.
No,
the-
3 out of 3 you had the damage token on the one.
Oh,
you
oh, yeah, I
won
know.
As well.
But Adam didn't win. So 2 out of 3
Oh, yes,
times
right,
the damage
right.
player was the winner, and the third time he was second place, and then all 3 times that person who had that token was the one that ended the game, meaning
Pretty powerful.
filled up the board. And regardless of that, I think that amount of time that we played felt about right for this game, and had the damage token not been in play, we would have had another 5 or 6 turns before somebody filled up their board, and that would have been too long. For
And I
this game.
think in each of these times that we've played, that damage leader token has come out fairly early in
Yes.
the game, so it enables that speed to increase each
And it's
time.
the one that everybody wants.
Right.
Yeah.
If you
So-
see that, that's the one you want to draft first.
So that speaks to 2 issues. One, balancing and playtesting, which kind of goes without saying. This hasn't been playtested a lot, and there are some balancing issues, and that only comes from playing it and raising the points up and down and doing what you need to do to make sure that all the strategies feel balanced. But the other thing is I would shorten the length of the game. Having the board fill up all the way, especially with 4 players, is a lot. We had a couple ideas. Either one,
You take the board
Take the board.
itself and you split it up into the different lines.
like zones. Like you have, maybe if you're playing 2 players, you have to fill it all the way up. If you're playing 3 players, you have to fill it 75% up. If you're playing 4 players, you have to fill, all you can go over those lines, but all of your columns have to be to kind of like X line or something like that. Or pick a number. Don't make them fill up all of their columns. Either like pick a number and say you have to have 3 of your columns touching the top, or something like that. It's just a little, filling up the stomach all the way is a little too long and feels a little by the end of it too. Like, especially if you
Because it
didn't-
doesn't help you get points
Right.
unless you have the right combo. So
Right.
you're putting all these extra things in just to fill it up, but it doesn't do anything
At some
for
point,
you.
yeah, you're just trying to cram stuff in there. And
particularly when the leader tokens
Are
are limited
at
to
the bottom
20.
usually.
And so now at 20, you get the one that's locked. And so now you cannot really score as well on the top half of your
yeah, and then we had that issue with the
Running out of leader tokens.
the leader tokens. What do you do? There's never going to be a final leader token to push that last leader token out of your grip. I mean, that could certainly be, though, if you shuffle the deck, or if you get to you can make an additional draft
Yeah.
step that would just force that person out with nothing that replaces it. And the rule book was missing. You had one that was a big square, and then like a less than sign or a greater than sign, and all the symbols at the
with the
bottom.
blank square in the middle. There were like 4 tiles blank.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked
not
like 4
explained.
blank tiles with like a big 8 squares surrounding it,
Yeah.
and that leader tile wasn't explained in the rule book. So we just put that one at the bottom and made sure that we didn't draw that. And then I don't know if
And
anybody
another
had
one
other
was
suggestions
another
moving
one was
forward.
the ×3, like a what was it, a
Oh, the
helmet,
helmet on top of the armor.
a helmet
felt
on top
a
of
little
armor was
overpowered.
like
With the
yeah.
+3.
Yeah,
to
with if
that.
you have the Griffin and it stacks with the other one, like the first time we played,
Yeah.
Ryan got 52 points because it was stacking with his regular ability, and it was
Right,
just
because
like,
Griffin asked
so
you
much.
to alternate.
Yeah,
and
you're
the
alternating
thing
and us helping
alternates.
with
So I
that.
think
So
there's
there's a
just-
lot of points.
So either that
Well,
or
and there
just
was a lot of adventurers who naturally had a helmet over armor.
Right.
And I think even if that was corrected and it was harder to put a helmet over armor, but I remember when you were playing that, I watched so many come out, I'm like,
yeah.
he just
Yeah,
needs that
it-
tile. That one tile is
Right.
3 points
And
for
stack
it.
2 of them on top of each other.
And then he-
And
That's
even with
6 points. and then
there's
with
so
the
many
Griffin, that's
switching
another
ones, it's
4
still
points.
easy
You
to
get 10
do.
points right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, hey, maybe as we get better, you still. I don't think anybody's played this game enough to know what a good score is and
Yeah.
what a bad score is, and how ridiculous, like 52 might be what a good player gets most of the time. I might have just gotten super lucky, or that might be something that's just like, oh, any other strategy is only going to get you 30 points. We need to just, nerf this one.
Though I think it's good to note that of the times that we've played, I think that the average score has hovered right around 30.
I think so, yeah.
A little over 30. Yeah. maybe.
I think, right around that area.
I would definitely suggest, Adam hinted at it earlier, whimsical fantasy art when you do this. Like, this is a fun, silly game, and you should have goofy-looking adventurers and goofy-looking
Yeah.
monsters and, like bright colors and stuff like that, and, make this kind of a fun fantasy feasty kind of game. I think that's solid.
And the adventurers have to look like the type of people who just line up to get eaten.
Kind of like
Right.
idiots.
Knowing you can't kill the
Right.
no one's ever killed a monster. We all just stand in line to get eaten. So to me, that was a lot of the fun. And there's a lot of contrast. I'm a kind of guy who loves contrast, and there's a lot of contrast in the brainy mechanics and the goofy, cheeky theme to me. And I really enjoyed that. And I think the more you can push that or exaggerate that contrast, for me, the better it does.
And
so I
I-
agree with you.
I would have liked, one of my concerns is that the drafts can appear too soon and push down your leaders into a position that's really going to be detrimental to your game. Like if you have like diagonal and that one gets pushed down first and you don't have anything, like let's say you're the last person to draft and you get stuck with that, but that's the one you start with. You're going to have like your whole bottom half of that you're not going to be able to get points unless you take a turn to swap somehow. So I would suggest you don't start the draft or like bury the draft cards under X amount of cards so that you can build up your board a little bit, because you already can see your first strategy that you're going for, so you can kind of set up your board a little bit and have a bottom area before you get some of your conditions out, because
Yeah.
it felt a little bad when, especially the first time I played, that's what happened to me. I didn't even get to pick any card before a draft came up, and then I was just like, oh, like there's nothing I can do here, and like it's gonna just knock my points down so much. So I would suggest, I don't know, spreading out the drafts, or have them happen after X amount of turns.
Like set aside 10
Instead
cards,
of like
shuffle
instead of in the deck,
everything, and
like
put
they
the
could
10
just be
cards.
like,
That is
okay, this
how
is
it is.
like have a
Yeah.
turn clock and like turn 4. Okay, now the leader's gonna pop down, or
Yeah.
So the game already sets that up that the first 9 cards are supposed to be dealt out before you put the drafts in.
Well, but you can
But
still,
then the problem is, I think what Colin's
draft
saying
being the first
is that
card out.
it could be exactly
Right,
the very
and that's
first
a
card
problem.
out, which, and usually actually if it's the first card out and nobody's gone, not that big of a deal. But if it's like
depending on-
each
depending on
time
what you
we've
get,
played,
though.
Colin has actually, I think it's triggered on him
Well-
on the first turn or the second turn.
I
right?
would only disagree with you, because depending on what you get, like there was the one that I got that is, it's the middle one, and the 8 squares around it, you score 1
Oh, yeah.
point for the most symbols that you get around it. If I get that before I get anything else, that's on the bottom level, and I just lose 3 points I could
Right.
possibly
Yeah.
score because I lose a whole bottom row.
No, I'm
off
saying
that.
I'm agreeing.
You
on
know,
that,
so-
yeah.
no, everyone's
Yeah.
saying let you build a base before the guys start falling.
Oh
so
yeah,
that
no,
doesn't
and
happen.
he's just saying if it happened right away before anybody drew a card, it wouldn't be unbalanced, but it could be depending on what the leader
what you're
is. The leaders, different leaders are very unbalanced if they come out early, before anything is
especially
out.
because the first leader is random. You're not even drafting that, and
Yeah.
maybe you get to draft your first leaders. That might be a cool thing,
Yeah.
especially based on the monsters. Like you might not want, you get stuck with something that's like,
or just
"Oh, this
even
is
reverse
horrible."
reverse order, like 4th player gets still deal out the 5, and then whoever player
Oh,
4
yeah.
is gets to choose their first general, and whoever goes first has to get the last choice of leader.
Sure.
Maybe it's kind of a catch-up mechanic. I don't know how much turn order matters. It seems like everybody gets the same.
Yeah,
It seems-
yeah.
it seems
Adam
pretty
West
general.
person
you
ended
start
it,
last
but he
round,
also
you
had the
don't
damage.
finish.
Yeah.
Everybody gets an extra
Completing the
turn
round.
anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it
that
seems
felt
like,
fine.
That seems fair. I don't. I'm just wondering if
Yeah.
you need a catch-up mechanic in this at all. But
There's a few theme issues, but I mean, other than that,
oh yeah, I did want to make that suggestion.
there were a
that-
couple of things that didn't quite fit. One of them for me was the swap tiles. Like even reading the rules, I didn't really understand. Okay, if I swallow this adventurer who's got a swap tile, how do I have control of switching what's in my stomach already, once I've already started digesting?
Or how do I
Oh.
eat it and make sure it goes over there in my stomach?
Right.
Or like eat it and make sure it goes over there.
I mean,
well,
but then-
the theme
yeah.
does break down a little, but honestly, and that was my initial feedback, I think, on the forms that we submitted for the review. But once I played it, I don't know.
It doesn't affect
it's
me 'cause
silly.
it's
You're
still
eating,
really fun,
You're eating
but-
goofy adventures. You're a goofy dragon or whatever.
But I think
I-
there's ways to tighten that up potentially.
Potentially.
Well, and on the swappy tiles, I actually thought of interaction. You could actually have it so you can force someone else to swap their cards, like how you knock against
Yeah,
them,
you nudge
and
them, yeah.
like you see somebody has some kind of a combo that's going
He
to give
was
them a
reaching
bunch
for
of
a
points.
different-
So you knock against them, and it makes 2 things swap, so they lose some points. That would be kind of fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I personally think for what it is, designed in 48 or less hours,
Yeah.
you're not going to catch a lot of these things. I was so impressed at how tight this game was for 48-hour design time.
Yeah. We
and
found
how
ourselves
everything
disbelieving
worked.
that it was
There-
48
yeah,
hours.
we honestly didn't believe it, but we were able to confirm that it was actually designed in 24 hours and not 48 hours, which is even more impressive.
Yeah.
So, phenomenal job. Thanks for submitting. I'm very impressed. I think if you would have play tested this for a month yourself, you would have caught all this. So we're not trying to be hard on you here, but just trying to accelerate your play testing experience and
Right.
giving you a few things to immediately look at. But I'm sure you would have gotten there.
Yeah. So
yourself.
I think you've got a really solid game here. We're all impressed, both at the game and at the short amount of time it took to put it together. So keep working at it, keep play testing it, find some fun art for it, and I think you got a great game here. Thank you very much and keep up the good work.
Congratulations.